Hi, welcome to the Sifu Mimi Chan show. Thanks for joining the conversation.
Hi there.
Hi there.
You don't look that much older.
Makeup. Us ladies are able to cover everything with makeup and hair.
That was a good response. That was good. That was good. That was good. How's things going there, huh?
Oh my goodness. It's going. I've actually not really been here much, so it's great. No, I'm just
A
kidding.
lot of travel.
Yes, a lot of travel.
You haven't been swept away in the rains.
No. Luckily, Central Florida, we're okay. South Florida was crazy, but yeah, we were okay here. But I mean, it was rainy and it's rainy. It's raining all the time, but nothing crazy. So yeah, we're fortunate.
Well, there's probably a relief from the rampant humidity.
Yes, the rain's actually been very helpful because it's been unbearable here, like 98 plus. And this week it's like 85. We're like, oh, it's
Wow,
cool
that's
out.
almost
Yeah.
human.
It's
Oh my gosh.
it's kind of bizarre. I'm like, let me get my jacket.
Ooh, crazy.
I know. Okay, I like the bite-sized snack. I'm
Are you
excited for
guys
you to
like, are
plan
you
something
in
bigger.
between? Are you in between right now?
So it's been, and we could talk about on here, but literally since April till now, we've been gone 6 weeks out of
Yeah,
that
no,
time.
you've been
It's been
jumping a lot.
intense. And
I
so
was
now
gonna
we're finally home
I was gonna
until
say
late August.
we
Yeah.
don't need to record today. If we want to plan to record something after I'm back from Victoria, like the week after next, because you
Whatever
and
you
I just
prefer.
haven't talked for 6 months.
I know. I can just stop recording anyway, just to, if you would like, let's do that.
Oh,
Because
okay. I mean,
I'm
you
totally
can use
ahead.
it for reference. I mean, I don't think.
I think we'll use the first 30 seconds where you're like, oh, you look young. And then I'll just say, that was Greg and I's episode for
There
June
you go. Throw it
20th.
up. Yeah.
You know me, I'll post that. Like, that will be our episode, and people will be like, that
That talks.
tracks.
Yeah.
I
Well,
know. I
I
miss
ran
you
into
so
some
much, too.
I ran into somebody at Heroes Con who was like, "What's going on with you and Mimi? Why hasn't there been anything new?" And I was like,
See, I'm going to cut
"Because it's
together
been
this one.
crazy.
Yes, our
It's
lives
been
are just
crazy."
not, well, there was travel, and then you also had deadlines and
Mm.
also
You know? Yeah, I
family.
suppose so.
Yes.
I've been working today, so that's good,
Mm-hmm.
which is nice.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's, yeah.
I actually
Uh,
had to look up and be like, "Oh, I have the call." So
oh,
yeah,
okay. Yeah, I think it's funny because I was like, oh, when was the last time I talked to Greg? I'm like,
it
it
was a
couldn't have been
while ago.
Portland. I'm like, I know I've seen you since then, but I think we did one in February.
Yeah,
I think we
that
did one
would.
in like round or right after Chinese New Year or before Chinese New
Right,
Year or
right.
something like
Because we were
that.
talking about all the Chinese New Year. I remember
Yeah.
that. We
So I
had
think
that
it was like,
conversation.
yeah, I think it was like
That was
either
last
right
one.
before, yeah, that was the last one because then it was, I've
Yeah,
been
then
gone, you've been gone,
well,
and
you
life
had Chinese New Year.
for a month and a half.
That eats all of your schedule. Then
Yes.
you had travel. So
Yes.
this is on you. It's not on me.
It's mainly on me. But I
This
mean, to
is
be
you.
fair, I have reached out to you during that time. It
Yeah,
just so
though.
happens when I was available, you weren't. And that's not really
Yeah.
your fault either. I mean, no,
Yeah.
I'm aware. But I actually, that made me really happy that someone asked about our podcast. So that means they miss us.
Look, I found the one person who cares. So
Yeah.
you know.
You know what? This is bullshit because we say this, Oscar and I say this all the time about our pod. Like Oscar and I do our sessions and we're always like, oh yeah, the one listener. And we
Uh-huh.
get a lot of feedback. And then like, well, your entire Discord obviously listens or whatever, but
I don't
like,
think the entire Discord does. No,
well,
that
a
would
good
be a lot
number,
of people.
a good
Some of
number of
them,
them do.
yeah, yeah. No,
A
no,
good number of
it's
them do.
legit. It's
It's
legit.
legit. It's definitely legit. It's funny because people often, I always see people like, oh, our podcast is in the top 5%, blah, blah, blah. And then so I wanted to understand what that was. And I went and did like a statistic thing. And then I was like, oh, some of our episodes are in like the top 5 to 10%. Some of like this podcast episodes, and in particular, you especially have your very special fan base, but like there's like, the people that get a million zillion views, but then there's
uh-huh.
everybody else. And like,
Uh-huh.
if you're consistent, it's such a rarity that like, you don't have to be in the thousands and millions of thousands of views in order to kind of be in that top 10%,
Yeah,
which
if
is
you're
interesting.
consistent, consistency is everything.
Yeah.
And
So,
unfortunately, that is a lesson that many of us learn late in life. But
mm,
honestly, it's true career wise too. Like,
yeah.
you look at that, there are a lot of New York Times bestselling novelists. They're not very good, but what they do is they have a new book every year,
Or yeah, and I don't even know
you know.
how I'm going. There's another one of those books. Like there's,
Yeah,
yeah, you.
yeah, yeah. That's you don't have to be good. You just have to be consistent. Well, I mean, there's I think you've heard the comic book like rule of three, right? You're either you're either on time, very good, or very professional slash easy to work with.
Mhm.
And if you have any two of those three, you can survive in comics,
Mm,
right? Like you
yeah.
can be brilliant and nice, but late all the time,
Mhm.
you know, or you can be always on time and professional, but
Mhm.
no great shakes, right?
Mhm.
And you'll keep getting the work. So
Yes, yes, yes. This makes sense. And I think that could also be applied to so many other industries
yeah,
too,
that's
really.
that's absolutely it.
Essentially,
It's
especially entertainment and
yeah,
everything. So,
across certain fields it applies. I expect it applies a lot across tech. You don't
mm,
have to be good at it, you just need to be consistently there
yeah,
and
making,
say
yeah.
yes sir, so
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was actually surprised to hear you were at a con again. I was like, two in
yeah,
like a year
two
span.
in 7 months. What the hell?
Who is this? And I don't get on the Discord that often, like consistent. But I'm lucky I caught that one, because usually it's about like pens, and I'm
Hmm.
like, I am so lost. I do not have any kind of pen knowledge like this
Yeah, you don't want
Discord.
to get into it.
You guys are
You
like
will deep dive on the fountain
the
pens.
deep dive on fountain pens. I go, Oscar, I don't know what's going on here, but like, so I'm like, okay, I can tune this part out because I have nothing of value to contribute here. But then I
Yeah,
saw,
I
oh,
can mess that up for
having
you
fun
real
at
quick.
the having fun at the con, and I was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. We had a couple people from the Discord were in the area, and so they were able to meet up and so
Yeah,
on.
that was nice.
Yeah. It was a good con. It was a good
Yeah,
show.
that one
I
is
mean,
in Carolinas.
that's
Where's that?
Charlotte. That's in
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I
that's not
feel
too
like
far from me.
if we are gonna talk about the con, this is podcast stuff.
Okay, and
Uh,
rolling. Hello, hello. This
hey,
is going to be a
okay,
very like put
this
together
like
episode.
20 minutes
Is
after they started,
So
we can
our
talk about.
listeners, the usual that has been missing us, like we already did a pre-roll that might get cut. Like we may have like little
Actually, I
snippets,
think
but
you should just leave the whole thing in, like all of it, including everything that's happened
yes, yes.
and all of that, and the well, maybe
I'll
not
take a
everything that's
look. I'll
happened.
take a look, and this will be quite the edit. The hello,
Some of
hello
that, yeah,
will
some of
be
that
at the
is I
beginning.
realize some of it's not for me to disclose, I guess.
Yeah. No,
So,
don't worry. I
but
know what to
but
do.
but yeah, yeah, Heroes Con in
Hey,
Charlotte, and
everybody.
it's
Mimi and Greg show is back
what
in very typical fashion.
are we talking about? Who are you again?
Well, we started talking. We were gonna do an
Yeah.
offline air thing because we were like, God, we miss each other. We haven't chatted. But then since we're talking about
Well,
the
it's been
Heroes
since
Con,
February. Yeah,
yeah, since
since
it's February,
February.
but we figured our very loyal listeners would want to know, especially those who are asking you at Heroes Con about this podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
That was very
Actually
nice.
asked at Heroes Con.
Thank you.
And then some of the members of the Discord were able to meet up there, and I got this really cool. Did you see it on the
I
Discord?
did see that because
Yeah.
it was under
Hang
the
on.
Lazarus art channel. Is it called a channel? I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, hang
It's
on.
called a
Here's
channel, right? On the Lazarus art
yeah,
channel.
yeah. There
Yeah.
we go. There's my little
Look at
Forever
that.
Carlisle that Discord the Lunatic made for me.
Love it.
Isn't
Thank
that
you to
awesome?
Discord the
I
Lunatic.
just
It's
love it.
super awesome.
I just love it to hell. I think this may be the first Lazarus thing that anybody's ever made and given me.
Really?
Like
That's shocking.
I have in my office a Tara Chase action figure that somebody made for me, but that has to be back in like 2002, 2003,
Okay.
right? So that's kind of, I mean, it's kind of awesome. I got to tell you, I love her to death. She sits on desk 2 right beside my Renee Montoya chess piece from the DC chess set. So
Very cool.
I got two of the ladies I have been fortunate enough to put uh, words in the mouths of. That's a sentence.
Maybe bring to life.
No, no,
No,
I don't tend
no.
to think of it that way
No?
anymore. No, I don't
Hmm.
tend to think of it as bring them to life. Especially, I mean, forever more than
Well, yeah,
Renee.
because I mean
Renee, I
that's
didn't bring to
just
life.
right. Okay, that makes
Renee
sense.
was,
That's you
yeah,
picked up,
yeah. I just,
continued,
yeah, I just got to visit for a while. So,
continue the story. Yeah.
but yeah, Heroes Con is a great show. It's a really, really good comic book show. It's no media guests. You know, you're not competing with the cast of fill in the blank. I was there with Nolan Woodard, who does the incredible colors on the Forge, and then Mike Henderson. So it was Nolan, it was Mike, it was me in a little line. And part of the fun of that was Mike was the only one with a banner, and he had this big old table banner. Yeah, big old table banner. Mike Henderson. And so you like you had to find me, which meant that I didn't have a tear. I'm like, I've done some conventions where it's been like, wow, you've been signing for 3 hours straight. It's just people line out. You just, this was busy, but it wasn't crazy for me. And it had been 11 years since I'd done that show. And when you don't do a show for 11 years, people show up with all the things in the last 11 years that they want signed from you. And that's nice. That's good. So, but Charlotte is always, it's always a great show. I mean, it's always a great show. People are always so generous there. I've never, some cons you do, and you'll get somebody at the table and they'll be like, why did you do this thing? And it's accusatory, you know,
Okay.
you did it wrong.
Right, right.
I've never had that happen at Heroes Con.
I think
People are
it's
happy to talk, but
yeah,
and they'll
and it's
ask questions, but no, they're never as
accusatory
judgmental
as
as
judgy
say
as other
as San Diego or New
San
York Comic
Diego.
Con.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like because you said it's so comic centric, like it's so you're kind of weeding out all the other like not I mean, I think this is like the diehard fans, right? These are more
Yeah.
the true readers. Like
You
these are
go, you do
serious.
Heroes Con primarily for artists. Like
Yeah. Okay.
it is
I'm
one of the
looking at the
best, if not
list
the
and I'm
best
like,
artist
wow.
show I think in the country.
Yeah, I'm looking at the
Um,
list and I'm like, oh, okay.
yeah,
Oh, Cully
yeah,
was there.
yeah, yeah. We got
Okay.
to have breakfast,
Okay.
and
How's
then
our project coming along?
Cully's been going through some stuff
I
too.
know, I know. He
I'm calling him tomorrow to check in, but he seemed,
good.
according to him, he
Better.
seemed to be like, yeah, in a place where he was feeling good about getting back into the work.
Okay.
So I had this realization for those of you. This is more for the audience that actually cares about like when is stuff coming out, Rucka.
That's a lot of people, yeah.
Yeah. So here's this will be your banner headline is massive updates on everything Greg does.
There it is.
Um, but coming out of Heroes Con, and you know, everybody asking, when's Lazarus coming back? I was really sad to see Black Magic got canceled, was one of them. It's like, no, it's not. The realization, the somewhat grim realization is, yeah, 2025 is going to be a banner year. Nicola is currently drawing Black Magick issue 17. I need to write 18 when I get back from this anniversary getaway with Jen next week. Goal for that is to be back early 2025, probably by March. Lazarus, Michael has completed his move and relocated and has started producing pages again. Alejandro, and I are going to have a call. I can say this now because by the time this airs, it may well have happened. I'm finishing up a script. Once that script goes in, Alejandro, Michael, and I are going to have to set a call and then discuss the return on that. But Alejandro's reached out to Image about basically the first stage of our return, which is hardcover 4. Hardcover 4 is intended to be like the advance, right? Hardcover 4 comes out, and then Lazarus Fallen begins. I still don't want us coming back with Lazarus Fallen until we can hit monthly. And yeah, and we'll know by the end of this year if we're going to be able to hit monthly. But if we can, then we're looking at mid 25, I think, hopefully around this time. And then the big thing you've missed, Mimi, is I started a new novel.
So. I know I was going to ask about it because I did catch that on the Discord, and that it was on my, I don't really do too much prep for our podcast anymore, but there's a big
why would you?
There's a big note on my screen and it just says novel ! Like times 10.
Yeah, Oscar will be happy.
Oh yeah.
It's the next Kodiak.
Yay.
And my goal is to have the draft finished by the end of summer, by the end of August. I should be able to do it. Like if I can get enough other things off my deck, then it's just a question of putting in the hours. And where I am right now is I'm trying to get things off the deck so I can do it. Yeah, for those who are fans of the Kodiak series, I'll say that it is 12 years after Walking Dead. So it's Atticus at 50.
I love this. Okay, so I have to ask because I know that you were, you've put some stuff in the Discord and I know that you announced that. And
I didn't really announce it.
Well,
I sort of softly, I softly,
it sort of softly got slipped.
You caught it.
Some people I caught it. I caught it. Yeah. Well, that's fine. And that's surprising because as I've mentioned, I'm not like on there scrolling constantly, but that one I was like, oh, we will have a discussion about this. I didn't even want to text you because I was like, if he's working, I don't want to distract
what happens?
The energy. But
maybe he's lying.
Yeah, I was like, oh, we'll discuss this the next time we talk in person. But you and I have had extensive discussions on, and listeners can look it up and just put in novel with Greg's name on my thing. There's probably like at least 10 to 15 podcasts where we talk about it, where, because of the experiences you had, because of how challenging and
how lonely it is
and how difficult it is on Bravo. Yeah. And also just that whole process that you really were turned off by the thought of ever doing it. I mean, you did say in one podcast, I'm never going to say never. And it's always a possibility, but it felt like a closed door.
Okay. So it's funny because, and I think I was saying this, I think it was to Cully, but I think it might have been the Cully, but it might have been the Mike. So I can't trace everything, right? I know that for several years I have had 2 novels bouncing around in my head. All right. One of them was this one, and I had a shape of it, but like over the interim, I've sort of was like, okay, so thematically it's this, and these are the things I want to deal with in it. But I hadn't known what it was, right? Like I hadn't known how to write it yet. And there wasn't an urgency, which is the nice thing, right? Nobody is sitting there going, write the goddamn novel or you don't eat. Yes. So I was able to push it off to the side. And then there's this other one that's been in my head for at least 8 years now, and that I expect I'll write at some point, but it's very different. It's sort of a magical realism horror story sort of thing, which is so not my jam. So all of that's happened. Some other stuff is happening with the Kodiak stuff that makes it much more present in my head, and I had to go back and reread them. One of those things is that we have the rights back to Keeper, Finder, Smoker, and Shooting at Midnight, which are the first four. Those
Yes.
four are out of print. Those four are old enough that they were under contracts that did not grant electronic rights,
Okay.
meaning there are no ebook versions, meaning that the books are legitimately out of print. One of the dirty little secrets of the publishing industry right now is that if you publish, electronic rights automatically go to the publisher, which means the book is never out of print because it costs nothing to stay in print, right? So you never get the books back. So for these four, and this is why, incidentally, we don't have Critical, Patriot, or Walking Dead, because even if they never print them, you can still get them for your Kindle, right? So bearing in mind that Keeper is, I think, 96.
96.
That's 28 years ago.
Yeah.
So
yes.
So
that's when Oscar and I met.
You know, so one of the things that was going on is that having to go through, I was having to find original copies. I was having to go through like all of my hard drives and be like, do I have the manuscript?
Yeah.
And the best I can find are PDFs. So it's like,
you got a floppy disk.
Yeah, I pretty much, right? And so I think I had it on a zip drive, and so there's a whole process of getting those books into an electronic format.
Right.
Okay. They are now in an electronic format and they're all being proofed. And then they're going to be formatted, and then I'm going to offer them up so people can get them for their electronic reading pleasure, right? But as part of that journey, I was rereading all of them, and according to some other stuff, and that brought me all the way up through the end of the series. So there was that, and it was all very fresh in my head. And then the other thing, and this is why this goes full circle, when you talk about, okay, wait a minute, there's now a fountain pen for channel on the server. My father, God bless him, who I have talked about many times, and who, to recap for those of us joining late, or who don't want to go back and listen to the other 53 podcasts we've done. Yeah. So my dad was dyslexic. My dad played football in high school and got to Berkeley on a football scholarship. He played linebacker. And it destroyed his knees, which ultimately leads to the complications that will kill him many years later when he gets the cancer diagnosis. But that's separate. So my dad was I am not a big guy. Like I'm 5'11". My dad was big. He was a linebacker, and he was of a big that required him to, like, he needed clothes made for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as a result, and also because of how he grew up and the deprivations, because they were very much feast and famine growing up.
Yeah.
He liked nice things. My dad was the kind of attorney who showed up in court with a bow tie every day. Not because it was an affect, but because he liked being that dapper gentleman.
Right.
So amidst all this, my dad loved fountain pens.
Okay.
But like many things that my dad loved, he didn't understand them. And over the years, I have gone through and found many of these beautiful fountain pens, that are, they're not cheap items. They're beautiful writing implements. They are, in some cases, works of art. Some of them worth hundreds of dollars. And my father had never like he just was like, and then you fill it, and then you write with it, and then you fill it, and then you write with, and it's like there's a whole way to treat a fountain pen. And so I
Oh,
ended up finally going like, I have like 12 of Dad's fountain pens. What do I do with these? It's time I gave them a proper cleaning. So Jen and I basically spent the better part of a week off and on cleaning out these pens, like soaking them and flushing them. And again, for the pen nerds, this is you can remove the nib and feed from the barrel and
okay.
clean the nib and feed and so on. So there's a reason for all this. So I'm doing all of this and I'm sort of laughing at my dad and having good memories, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because literally there's a Pelican M800 here that the nib and feed are just glued into each other because he just never flushed the damn thing. And I finally get them free and I get everything cleaned out and then you reassemble it and it's okay, well now let's see how they write. And I loaded up one of these pens and put some test strokes down and sort of had this epiphany as to, like, I've had, my dad loved fountain pens, he gave me fountain pens, but I didn't use them consistently because a lot of the time I'm typing.
Mm.
And fountain pens, you get into a whole thing of ink and paper and so on, right? So they are something of a production, you have to commit to them, and it was a commitment I was not willing to make.
Of course.
And now I have these pens of my dad's and they're all cleaned up and they're all ready to go. And I start writing with one of them and I'm like, oh, this is like butter.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gliding.
Right.
So that collides with all this other stuff that's bubbling away about Atticus. And I realized, oh, I know what the first sentence is.
Okay.
So I wrote the first sentence.
With the
Uh,
pen?
yeah, with the pen.
Love it.
Which led to writing the second sentence, which led to writing a very short prologue, which led to me setting it down and being like, huh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And about 3 days later, I was like, oh, I know the first sentence, and wrote the first sentence of chapter one. And now, we're probably a sixth of the way through the novel
Wow.
because we do this in word counts. I expect this is going to be a long one. Might not be, might turn on me, but because of what it's about, because of some of the things I want to do with the voice, it may be it may be one of the longer ones. But yeah. And it's got a title, which I'm not sharing yet, but it is a
Okay.
throwback title. I'll say that. So
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. This is so
There's no
exciting.
publisher, mind you. There's no publisher.
Yeah.
So it is conceivable that I'll finish the thing, I'll type the thing up, I'll decide, yeah, you know what? I'll put it up for ebook or whatnot, or POD. I'm not a huge fan of having to do business through Amazon, but that may be the only way to get it properly distributed.
Mm.
So we'll see. But yeah, and I'm enjoying it. And
I'm
and it
so
does feel
glad.
like this reconnection with my father in a way, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I Bravo crashed.
Mm-hmm.
My dad died the week it dropped, and
Mm-hmm.
Hachette was in a knife fight with Amazon, and Amazon accounts for 75% of all your book sales.
Yeah.
So then when Hachette turns to me a month later and says, well, your book didn't perform,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
That's not on me. I gave you guys a good book.
Yes.
You didn't put any promotion in it. You didn't back it, and you fought with the biggest retailer in the world for it.
Yeah.
And then you come to me and you say people didn't like it. People didn't know it was out, and they weren't willing to pay full price for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you can't knock them for that. Not when they're like, I can get it for 16 or for 25. That's a $9 savings.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. I'm not Neil Gaiman. I get it. Not everybody's going to be like, screw it, I'll pay whatever. I get it. But to say that was your failing, and then to follow that up with, so don't do the thing you were going to do for the third book, do something differently. And it was like, the hell with you people.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm done. So, and there was other things going on there. I had a editor who didn't like me.
Yeah. Which
Um,
is a perfect
yeah, no,
storm of
I had
shit.
been orphaned at Hachette.
Yeah.
It was not good.
It was no, yes, no
It
bueno.
was, shall we say, not good. It was bad.
Yes,
So, um,
100%. This is
yeah,
so exciting though. And I love how you've gotten to where you've gotten. Like this is
yeah.
really
It's
great.
kind of it feels like a closure in a
Yeah.
way, and
Yeah.
and it doesn't feel as isolating writing this. Maybe because part of what it is very much. They say Atticus is 50. Elena is 50.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't, I mean, literally, I think the chapter one opening line is I hadn't killed anybody in 12 years. Unless she had been remarkably discreet, which wasn't beyond her. I don't
True.
believe my
I was
wife
like,
had
that
either.
could happen.
Yeah, I don't believe my wife had either. Now, for some people, this might not seem a thing to be proud of, but if you go from that, right, there's a difference in the voice. And I'm talking to Evelyn and Jen, and everybody's a part of it in a way. It is less isolating than some writing
Mhm.
experiences have been.
And then
So
also
yeah,
I think you're also collaborating on so many other projects
yeah,
at the
and
same
that helps.
time, and it's totally different because you're not like I imagined you literally in this like castle tower alone with the dungeon door slammed while you're writing,
I
like
mean,
this is how you've
you've
described the
you've seen my
experience.
office,
Yeah, but
right?
you described the experience as so isolating, and so the fact though that you just shared, oh, okay, Black Magic and even Cully and Leandro and Michael, like you're doing so much collaboration that it's okay to actually have this piece of it for yourself and your nostalgia,
Yeah,
your
it
dad,
makes it easier.
it
It,
actually is
it
a different place. You're just in a different place, right?
Yeah. And I think that all of these things have conspired. So, I mean, look, it may be crap, but I'm writing it. So we'll see, you know.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that it's not crap, but
We call it, we call the first draft, we don't call the first draft, we call it the vomit draft.
Yeah.
That's just get it out.
Yeah, that
And
makes
then
sense.
then you kind of go, okay, now let's put words in the right order, and that's a first draft.
Mhm.
And then you read it and you go like, oh, this is ooh, right? Or what happens if, and let's move these in. And then the serious work is the second. So,
Okay.
but I
I'm
like drafts,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's the Douglas Adams line. I don't like writing. I like having written.
Okay.
That's the difference between no draft and draft. In a
Yeah.
draft, you've written. So now you can
Yeah.
actually roll up your sleeves and get in there.
Makes sense.
Um,
I mean, it's just so exciting also because I mean, you literally said, okay, 1996. And if everybody just thought right now, where were we in 1996?
and
You're just such a different
half the
person, such
audience
a
was like,
different
I
writer.
wasn't born.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I get that a lot. But
Yeah.
literally, that's like Oscar and I met. So that's why it's super exciting too.
Dude, here's another thing at Heroes Con. I had not one, not two, but three separate people come up to me. This one kind of hurts at different points and say, "Yeah, I reading your stuff is what got me to want to be a writer when I grew up." And I was like, "Oh, oh, I think, oh, look, liver spots are appearing on my hands even as we speak." It's the most flattering thing in the world. I mean,
Right.
it is so genuinely flattering.
Yes. And a
But at
reality
the
check.
same time, it's also like you don't look like an infant.
Right.
Like you're walking into you look like somebody in their mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh
so
my
yeah,
gosh.
but I mean, genuinely
Oh,
flattering.
yeah, it's such a
Yeah.
great compliment for sure. But no, it's going to be so fascinating because you've taken such a long break from the character itself and to kind of bring back that voice, but in your voice, a different voice,
Yeah.
and you've all
It's
aged together, so it's pretty exciting.
I shared it with Jen and with one
Hmm.
other person, and the one other person who read it came back and said, "Yeah, it's unmistakably him, but it's different."
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah,
As
and it
well it should,
is.
right? Yeah. Was it difficult for you to go through and do those rereads of the early works?
It's always difficult because I
I,
always put it's actually the early ones are
yes.
really hard.
I
Those are
mean, but you
really
were how
hard.
old?
Yeah,
Like in your
I
20s?
I was a smart ass kid who thought he knew what he was doing, which which is a good argument
Yes.
for being a smart ass kid who thinks you know what you're doing. Because if you then get 30 years from it to look back and go, then that's fine because that's actually where you want to be 30 years along, right?
Yeah.
So like rereading the first, rereading the second in particular, which I hadn't looked at in forever, like the first three, little bumpy. Rereading shooting, I was like, this was pretty good. And then you hit the stuff where it feels like, oh, I figured some shit out.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
knew what I
Yeah.
was doing. The big revelation for me was revisiting Patriot Act,
Okay.
which was the second to last, right? That's the sixth.
Okay.
And I
Before
have
Walking Dead.
always and it is a book that benefits it is of all the books in the series, the one that benefits the most from being read in order,
Mm,
right? Like
okay. Yeah. Because
jumping,
yeah.
picking up Patriot first is it makes Patriot not nearly as strong as it is.
Mm-hmm.
But reading it as part of the sequence, I've always had difficulty with that novel. I Something happens as an instigating event in it that
Mm-hmm.
I did not like, that I did at my editor's insistence.
Yeah.
The whole of the novel grows out of that, but is and you know, and my editor might well have been right to make the note, but I still to this day am not happy with having followed it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that said, I finished it. I finished rereading it, and I was like, this one's actually kind of good.
Oh, it's very
There's
good. I
there's a
remember it. It's
sequence,
super good.
the snow sequence. I had completely forgotten I had written, like the Montana sequence.
Mm.
Never mind, you know, the escape from Wyoming sequence, but or from the Motel 6 or whatever it was that they were at. But that sequence in the snow, I was like, oh, this is it may not be a good piece of writing, but it's very evocative. It's very visual. You can see
Oh,
everything
yeah.
that's
I
happening
mean,
that night.
and I think it's fair for you to be kind of critical of it because you're looking back as a
No, and I'm
seasoned,
always going to
consistent,
be, yeah.
right, of course. And but also you're a writer, like a real writer, like you've been doing it. It's not like you wrote a book once and then 30 years later you're like, oh, let me look back and see where I'm at. I mean, you've consistently been writing in different
Yeah,
mediums,
I've been
but you
doing
have
it since
not
then. Yeah,
stopped,
yeah.
so of course you're gonna grow. But like even for the time, like I think a lot of books are like that. You're like looking at the time of when something was done, and it's like they were all still like very entertaining reads, but of course as you say, like we grow with the books too, right, as readers, so it's really fascinating, but
Well, and
all very
that's one
exciting.
of the fun things about this new one is being able to go, oh, 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like what does 12 years look like for them? Where
Mm-hmm.
are they in 12? I left them with a newborn baby and an adopted daughter. What does that look like 12 years later?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's joyful.
Yeah.
It is genuinely giving me joy to discover the answers to those questions and to be surprised by them and the realizations I keep having. Like I think it's going to be one thing, and then I think about it for another 30 seconds, and I'm like, oh no, it's not that, it's this.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, because it's me, it's got to be about something. Um,
Deeper meaning.
yes, it's got to
The
have. It's
answer is
got.
greed and money.
Yeah, ding, 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 ding,
I've
ding,
read
ding,
Greg
ding,
Rucka books. I've read Greg
ding.
Rucka books.
So yeah, I get to have some greed and money anger and some interesting new characters and some old characters are
Yeah.
back. So
Oh, well, this is great because then Oscar and I will know when it's time to do the rereads and
yeah,
to like warm us up into it. It's kind of like Okay, Lazarus one. Here we go
Yeah,
again. She
exactly.
wakes up and
That's
she,
right.
she wakes
You're gonna have.
it's like
I will give you the warning.
yeah.
There will be plenty of
The one
warning
thing
in
about
advance.
Greg Rucka work is you can enjoy the rereads with a
Let's hope.
with a whole slew of people.
Let's hope. I got to tell you, I mean, I'm working on Lazarus today, and I keep thinking, well, there are going to be a lot of really pissed off people when
I
they
think
get to
so
these
too.
issues.
I feel my heart is just you saying that makes my heart pound a bit, but like I still feel like pissed off doesn't mean people will be disappointed. I think pissed
Yeah.
off is a reaction, right? But I
Oh,
think people are still just
I,
going to
I think
be besides themselves. Like,
everybody is being who they always were.
yeah, yeah,
And it ain't my fault if the audience thought they were somebody else.
yeah.
Uh, Not everybody who is bad or did a bad thing is bad, and not everybody who did a good thing is good,
That's
and
right. That's right. That's
broken
right.
clocks and so on. So
That's always the thing though, right? So, oh
yeah.
my gosh. No, this is exciting. It's funny because right before we jumped online, Oscar's like, "Oh, you never need things to talk to Greg about, but just tell him that
Prep?
he's
What
always
prep?
right." Yeah. He's like, just tell him again because any book I read, any news article, he doesn't, we don't watch or take in any news, by the way, and we're not going to talk about that, but he does get the New Yorker now. He's been reading all these lengthy articles and everything. And he's like, just tell him he's right, that everything is about greed and money because it keeps coming up. And I'm like, yeah, that tracks. But he did mention this one article that was fascinating because I was like, gosh, how does this affect people who have professions where we need to sit down and read something or intake something and it's not a like quick scroll of a whatever, because he was like, yeah, the attention span of a consumer is 8 seconds, which is a goldfish attention span. I'm like, we have now become goldfish. But thinking about now you're writing this novel, I'm like, oh my gosh, people are, but of course people are still taking in novels. Like I don't think that that's ever going to go
People
away, but the attention
the,
span is tiny.
yeah. I mean, we have to. It's we've lost our discipline,
There it is.
and
Yeah.
and we've lost it because we were lured away from having it,
Mhm.
right? Because dopamine hits are great, you know, and and the extension of that has been the loss slash disappearance of critical thinking, and nowhere is that now more evident. It was evident with crypto, it was evident with NFTs, and now nowhere is it more evident than in this bullshit about AI, which doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Like it fundamentally doesn't exist. It is not an artificial intelligence. It is not. It cannot think. It has no sentience. Ergo, not intelligent,
Ah,
not artificial. It is a large language model.
right,
A
right, right.
bunch of really big, reasonably sophisticated algorithms,
Hmm.
but it
Okay.
is not to be mistaken in any way, shape, or form for something that can think.
Mm.
It can't. This is why ChatGPT won't argue with you. It's not simply a programming directive. It cannot argue with you,
Ah,
right?
yeah.
If you sit there and you say 2 plus 2 is 5 and it says 2 plus 2 is 4, and you say, no, I think you're incorrect, long enough, it will say, yes, 2 plus 2 is 5, right?
Oh,
It cannot,
I need to go try this.
because
Yeah.
the model, right,
Hmm.
is consumer oriented,
Okay.
right? And
Yeah.
there is no ability to empirically
Right. It's
apply
not thinking.
logic.
Yeah.
It cannot count the thing.
Mm.
So yeah, yeah, it's just the latest Silicon Valley snake oil that's being foisted upon us, and everybody is eagerly guzzling it. And it's like, are you
Hmm.
fucking kidding me? This is what, like AI is going to be the end of civilization. This is what they meant. They meant
Right.
fake AI. They didn't mean the real thing,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
Like if the machines one day decide, yes, we're getting rid of you,
Yeah.
That will be because we screwed this up so badly.
Yeah, I mean, and if we're leaving it to humans, then
Well, if and look, if you have an 8-second attention span and no critical thinking skills, then you don't get a Terminator scenario, right?
hmm
You don't need to fire nukes. You can just trick everybody into doing what you want. All
hmm
you got to do now is throw up your doctored video or what, and people will happily march into the sea.
Right.
We'll all lemming if there's enough dopamine there. I will say the nice thing, look, it's great to use your phone as an e-reader. You know what I mean? I'm all for that.
hmm
I actually have found that I'm spending a lot less time on my phone lately.
hmm
I have other things to do.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
we're much better about that as well. I mean, Oscar just took all the apps off that
mhm,
would even remotely. The only one thing he has is like thing is like his chess. Like he likes to play with the
mhm.
people. He has a couple people he plays
He
with.
plays chess with. Yep.
Yes, then he's done that for like 15 years or something. He's like not obviously one long chess game, but
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
one
No,
person he's been
that'd be
playing
a
with.
hell of a game.
That'd be a hell of a game. But yeah. So but yeah, so he's got like that's like his own, but yeah, he's really good about that. And then, we've just like we've talked about this before, but yeah, I think there's just so much. I feel like those of us who have a discipline in our work or in a serious hobby or sport or something that requires discipline, I
Hmm.
think we're all going to be okay because we
Yeah,
tend
it's easy.
to recalibrate
Well,
to
and we
what
also
should be
we
right.
reinforce the need for the discipline.
Yes.
And that's not, I mean, there's a piece of me that goes, oh, I sound like old man shouting at cloud, like kids today have no discipline. But I mean, we have eroded the need for intellectual discipline.
hmm
I
hmm
mean, we really have. And if you've got the device that does the equivalent of all of your research for you, and now you've got a way to type in prompts and it'll write you an essay and so on. Well, guess what? You're not
hmm
doing the work, buddy.
Yeah,
And and so you do not reap the benefits of the work.
exactly. You're
I
not
mean
taking
that
the
that
journey at all.
yeah.
But also
And
it'll come back because
it
you're
and
not
comes
just going
back.
to be yeah, you're not just going to be on this thing and
So
turning in an assignment. Like if you go to talk to someone and you have
I
no way of communicating
I
anymore.
haven't written in cursive consistently since college,
Okay.
right?
You gotta
So
get your
like the
fountain
last
pen.
time I wrote a novel longhand, I was in high school. All right.
Oh
I would
yeah.
sit in the
Me
back of my
too.
English class and write this in this
Yes.
notebook, writing my novel.
Yes.
Um, and in the interim, all of like that discipline has gone
Yeah.
away and it's been
Like
replaced by the keyboard.
hmm
I write at a keyboard. So now I'm writing longhand again. And the first couple of pages, my handwriting is,
your
oh,
hands like cramping.
well, the nice thing about this pen
Ooh.
isn't.
Oh, see, there we go. Now I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I need
Made
such
it
pens.
made it a lot easier, right?
Okay.
But you can now flip through pages and you can literally watch my handwriting getting better as it's
Right,
like,
right.
oh, he's remembering how to do this and he's
Right. Muscle
doing it more
memory.
and he's practicing and it's improving and
Yeah.
ta-da. Oh, look, it turns out practice does make perfect. Gosh, no wonder these people got so good at piano, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But that's what I mean. I feel like those of us who have a discipline, there'll be like an overlay of, there's that intersection of like, oh, we'll apply this to this then. My
mhm.
discipline from this will carry over and everything. And so you you would hope that everyone finds something to
Oh,
have a
I think
discipline that would
it's there
cross
for
over.
everybody. Like everybody
Yeah.
can do it. I don't and I don't want to. God, I'm worried that we sound a little like a Tim Ferriss podcast or like how to hack yourself sort of thing, and I don't ever want to sound like that.
Okay.
It, it is to say this is look, it's the same thing I tell people when they say, well, I want to how can I be a writer?
Yeah.
It's like you write. You want to be a writer, you write. And that's how
hmm
you be a writer. Like, well, I can't, this, that. And it's like the discipline of being a writer is putting your ass in the chair and doing the work.
Hmm.
That's the most fundamental, groundbreaking, necessary thing. You
Hmm.
have to do that. If you
Yeah, that's
don't
the,
do that, there is nothing else. Right. And you can apply that to any skill or any
of course.
profession. Right.
Yeah.
I would like to become a Kung Fu Sifu. Really? Okay. Start at the beginning and work really hard. Show up and do the work.
Yeah,
Right.
that's pretty much a
And
secret.
it's not, yeah, I mean, it, people are always, what's the secret? The secret is there is no secret. It's hard
Yeah.
work.
Yes. But that's
Um,
the bird by bird for the right, just right, just right, just right. I
yeah.
mean, and then eventually it's like how to be a good writer is a whole different thing.
Well, yeah, because now you have to bring other things to the actual
Of
act of
course.
writing.
Of
You
course.
have to be able to look at what you've created and so on.
Yeah.
But I've had, people ask over and over, and I've been like, just set a timer for 30 minutes a day. Get up
Yeah.
30 minutes earlier.
Yeah, the
Just
discipline
30
part.
minutes. And if you write, if you can manage 1,000 words a week, that's 52,000 words in a year. In a year and a half, that's a novel.
Hmm.
That they don't just appear.
But
I
why
mean,
not?
yeah. Well, but right, but that's what that's part of what they're trying to sell us with AI in quotes,
Right. Yeah,
right?
that you can
You can now
just,
have whatever story you want. Wouldn't it? I read one of these jackasses saying, you know, AI reactive movies. Like, so you never see the same movie twice. It's like, where's the point of doing that? Right? I mean, like, isn't part of the point of the movie the collective experience? Right? Isn't there some degree of satisfaction in me being able to turn to you and say, we both saw Dune? It was the same experience. Wasn't this thing cool? And for you to be like, well, that didn't happen in my version. The hell's the point of that?
right.
I did a Richard the Third.
That's because people
None of the
aren't
kids
sitting in
died.
theaters together anymore, right? And that's the thing too. We're losing those experiences where,
But
which is
we
scary.
still, but
Be,
the collaborative theater going experience
yeah.
is suffering horribly right now. But it's
Yes.
not simply due to the pandemic. I was talking to Fraction about this a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, and he pointed out quite correctly, because I checked, not because I didn't believe him, but because I was like, it was more like there are professionals. He is as close to like not a not Hollywood professional as you're gonna find. Like,
Yeah.
he
Well,
is
he's a
up.
film
I am,
aficionado.
yeah,
Yeah.
I am not. Right. This
Mm.
is the most popular movie going night for the last year and a half has been Tuesday because it's half price tickets.
Wow.
He's right.
Okay.
Like, nobody's going to the theaters. Add in pandemic, add in everything. It costs $60.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like 7 tickets. It's $160 or whatnot. That's crazy. Never mind concessions. The ticket prices are too damn high,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
right?
expensive.
If I said, you know what, it's $10, I bet you more people would be going.
Hmm.
I bet you
Yeah.
more people would be going because there isn't anything like sitting in a movie theater and sharing the experience.
No.
All right. There isn't anything like that.
No,
It's not the same.
it's
Right?
not the
It's
same.
cheaper to do it at home now and stream it on Paramount Plus or whatnot.
Hmm.
And why should I get my ass out to a movie theater and spend, and never mind if I need a sitter or if I want anything else, minimum $30, right?
Yeah.
To see a movie that I can buy for 20 in 3.5 weeks.
Yep.
And then they go, nobody's going to the theaters. It's like, you did it yourselves, jackass. But it's coming from inside the house. It's literally like it's sort of like going, how do we solve the homeless problem? Easy, give them homes.
Yeah.
Some of these problems are self-evident, right? Homelessness is the easiest thing in the world to solve. Got a lot of inventory. People aren't in it. Give people places to live.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
but what happened to my investment? What happens to my profit? What happens to the neighborhood? You know what? Certain sacrifices should be made for the good of society and your fellow
Mm-hmm.
human beings. And I suspect your neighborhood will be fine.
Right.
Because once people aren't desperate, they're less inclined to do desperate things.
Facts.
Yeah.
But that
If
takes
they
critical
have if they have
thinking.
a regular address, they're more likely to be able to get regular medical care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Call me crazy.
Never, never,
Yeah.
never, ever. Oh,
So
I know. Well, at least from our chat today, I learned that we have one listener that was missing us.
there's one listener who's going to be so happy.
So happy or
So
disappointed.
happy. Yeah.
Not sure. Could go either way. Um,
Well, there's one
I,
who identified themselves. Okay, that's
I
only one who identified themselves
that's true.
to me at Heroes Con asking. All right. That doesn't mean there's only one.
We know there's not only one listener. We know
Yeah,
that. We know that.
there's at least 11 or 12 of them. We know them all by
No,
name.
there's
So.
hundreds of listeners at least.
hundreds,
Oh,
hundreds of you.
definitely. By at least by downloads, at least hundreds. And that's
Sure.
just like usually in the first week or so, right? So like we're okay. We're
We're
gonna
doing
be
all
okay.
right.
They're not gonna pull me off air.
Oh, nobody gets to cancel Mimi.
No, yeah, that's right. Nope, not happening. I'm too persistent for that and stubborn.
Excellent.
Everyone's like, why are you still podcasting? Do you enjoy it?
Discipline.
I'm like,
Discipline. I'm
Yeah.
disciplined.
Yeah. Yeah. I went on vacation for 2 weeks, but I recorded 4 live podcasts
Exactly.
in person.
That was ready.
Vacation. Yeah. I have these nice little mics now. So next time I come to see you, I'm just gonna
Travel
have
mics.
one and I'm just gonna like nice little labs. They're easy. I'm just gonna be like, we're just gonna put this on the table, especially for a Rucka dinner. Because let me tell you, I think we said this in February, but Oscar and I left, and I know you got to go soon, but we left dinner with you guys going, wow, it was a very cerebral dinner. Like you guys, your dinner conversation is intense and just so like sophisticated.
we might have been on display for you.
I was like, Oscar and I are like, let's get the dictionary out. So is it okay if we pull this out during conversation? It was
Wow,
fantastic.
that sounds. I mean, that's both delightful. It also sounds like we are the worst liberal elites.
No, it was
I
just
think
so
it's just
it was just so like conversational, like really deep conversation. It was really refreshing. Maybe because we're just not in that environment all the time. It's very
maybe. I
much
mean,
like
I grew up in a home where when you sat down at dinner, you had a conversation.
yeah.
And I think Jen and I subjected the children to that, whether they liked it or
Well, they're
not.
fantastic conversation. Well, I didn't get to sit with Dash, but like Elliot was amazing, and we were like, oh wow, we feel like we need to like read the. Well, maybe that's why Oscar subscribed to the New Yorker. Like, I need to do more reading.
Look, there are worse things to subscribe to.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing we were trying to figure out. We don't want really news. We want it to take in like journalism and writers and proper just try to elevate
the information.
our intellectual stimulation. And I think it was Cal Newport. We do a lot of Cal Newport books, and he said something like, not that he could die, but like that was my goal. Like once I was my New Yorker article was accepted, I felt like validated. Like, okay, the New Yorker accepted me as a writer. You feel validated as a writer. I'm like, oh, I didn't know it held such prestige, So
for a very long time.
Yes. And Oscar wanted like to have a physical again because he said he's lost the discipline of the physical read, and he used to just digest books like crazy, just like one day finishing a book. And now he's like, wow, that discipline of turning the page, and because those articles
focusing
is focusing
hard.
Yeah, so he didn't want to lose that, and so that's why he's like, I need to get the physical copy too, not just the online. He was like kind of insistent upon that, but yes, it was a phenomenal evening with the Ruckas, and having conversation was very stimulating.
Oh, you'll have to come back.
Oh, we will. Well, you guys have to come here. I know Florida's scary, but I promise, like Orlando, we're in a little bubble. Look at your face. You're like,
Okay.
no,
Yeah,
not
I'm
coming
not
to
sure.
Florida.
So you have some problems to work out
I
there.
know.
No, it's honestly
Working
just
on it.
a long way to go and
Of
no reason
course.
to make the trip aside
I
from you
know. I
guys.
know.
Like you had the excuse of coming to a con.
This is
So
true, but it was mainly to see you.
there were a few other people at that con. You got some interviews off of, young lady.
Yeah, but that's because I was there.
Yeah, that's not. That was
I
just.
was really,
That was
I
just.
was
That was
like,
just frosting.
I needed, that's right. I was like, no. Yeah. I've been meaning to come out again anyway. So, but
Yeah,
yeah, it is far,
well,
but it's been a good, been a good, you know, world travel. I'm trying to
yeah, I was gonna say, do you get
ease
to
up
be home for a little while now?
for like a couple months.
Okay,
Yeah, 2 months.
that's good.
Yes, it's very
That's
good.
good.
It's very
You
good.
get to do laundry and things like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was the thing. We were literally like doing the living out of a suitcase thing, which was, ooh, it was rough.
Yeah.
I'm feeling this one. I'm feeling this stretch of
Yeah.
fatigue.
I hear
So
that.
it's been a thing, but always good to see you. I will definitely let
Always
you get
good to
back
see
to
you.
work
And like I
because
said, I mean, I'm home again next week. So
okay,
maybe
I
we
will
can,
put you on the calendar. We can
week
make sure
after.
our fan is
Yes,
like
we're gonna have one happy fan. So
like wow, they're recording again consistently. So that way it can have a couple banked and like spread out the
yeah,
love. So people will like,
we'll
whoa,
have
Mimi and Rucka are
updates.
back.
We'll have
Yes.
novel updates if nothing
Novel
else.
updates. And well, this was a huge update, actually. What started off as we're not going to record this to, well, we'll see what happens to, oh my God, all the Rucka
Yeah, now you got
updates.
editing to do.
I do, but it's
You're gonna have to do a
okay.
lot of gluing at the beginning.
It's
So
all right. I mean, it's all good. It's not too bad. It's literally just like we'll just remove a little bit of the pre-roll. So a joy as always.
very
Love to
good.
Jen and everybody. I miss you
Of
all so
course.
much.
Give my best to everybody on your end, okay?
Shall do. All right,
Okey-doke.
everyone. Mr. Greg Rucka. Until next time.
Bye. Thank you.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to The Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Please subscribe and rate my podcast on your platform of choice and leave a review. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/Sifu Mimi Chan to help keep this podcast going. Follow me and interact on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Instagram or Facebook.